This is the 17th season of Bass Talk Live with your hosts, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrat. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Yamagatsu, The Bass Tank, and Denali Rods. BTL coming at you. Good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL, Bass Talk Live, where Matt and I are going to talk bass fishing and frozen tundra and snow and minus temperatures and 30 minus below wind chill factors. It's a mess, Matthew. What's up? He has no volume.
I have no volume.
You're back now.
Yeah.
No, you're good now.
All right.
You're good.
I said I looked at my phone, and I have the weather app, right? Mm-hmm. And I always have, so I put on my weather app the location of my next tournament. So I have in my mind what's going on there, right? If I'm like, oh, there's a cold front or something. So I've got Leesburg, Florida. I have Norman, Oklahoma, and I have Catoosa. I took a screenshot of it. It's the most depressing shot I've ever seen in my life. Norman is -6.
Yeah.
Catoosa is -2, and Leesburg is 70.
70 degrees.
Yes. I was like, I should just leave right now.
You should. You should. Well, we're going to have a warm theme to the show today. We're going to have Bernie Schultz on. He's going to talk a little bit about Florida fishing, just kind of a different approach, obviously. Everything else that Bernie is involved with from a lure collection standpoint. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. Had an okay week in Florida this week, finished 40th, and we'll dive into his thoughts and this stuff that takes place in Florida at the beginning of the year. Every single year, we're going to dive into it a little bit. And then here in about 4 or 5 minutes, we're going to have a special guest, Matthew. In fact, I think he's here right now. Let's bring him in.
You have a special guest?
Let's bring him in. Miles, what's going on, man?
Oh, my God.
What is going on, everybody?
Oh, I did not see that one coming. I almost contacted Miles, and I was like, I don't want to bug him. We've already done that. Here he is, right here.
Here I am.
I had to bring him in, man. I had just an outstanding week on the first event of the season, 6th place finish. And you smoked him for 26 pounds on the first day, right?
Yeah, man. The last 2 events that we've had in Florida, I've had 26 pounds the first day. And so that, I guess 26 is my magic number.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you talk any crap to Chris or Skeet? Because I know they were down there in Florida, were you just like, hey, man, I'm coming for you on this? Because, you were like in the kind of the catbird seat headed into the last couple rounds.
I was actually probably pretty nice to see. I walked over to Skeet and told him good luck the next day after the first day. So yeah, I was pretty nice to him.
All right, man. Well, I just wanted to get you on for a few minutes and say congratulations. Yeah. Great way to start the year. We'll try and get you on a later date, but I'm sure Matt got a chuckle out of that.
Yeah.
one.
Hey, real quick, Miles, are you in front of your rig right now?
Yeah. You want to check it out?
Yeah. Look at this, Jeffries. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Look at that thing. That's pretty cool.
He's got the whole setup. You should see this thing when it's all combined with the boat and the truck and the topper on it. It's like a fine-tuned machine.
Wow.
Yeah. No, we got a really good rig this year. A lot of people have complimented me on the camper truck and boat rig. But
cool.
it makes it so much easier to travel around having a camper and doing the camping lifestyle. And so many people this week have been doing that. I think it's really catching on.
Yeah, for those who are listening on iTunes, all we just said was Miles and then erupted into laughter. We're talking to Miles Burghoff, fresh off a 6th place finish in the MLF Pro Circuit first stop down in Florida, pocketed almost 20K, didn't you, for a 6th place finish?
18, and then it says on the website 18,200, and I don't know where the 200 is. But I don't know where it came from. Maybe it's a Wiley X. I don't know.
No, that's what happened. So when I did the Costa Championship, there was like some odd number, and like as I'm coming off stage, you're like, here's some discount cards for Costas. They included that in the dag winnings. I was like, where did all this come from? It's like all these 50% off discount cards, free stuff, accessories. They count it all.
Yeah, I haven't got it yet, but I'm sure sometime down the line I'll find out where that $200 is. But
that is weird. You're the only one who got it.
Yeah, it is.
Everything else
weird.
is an even, like 11, 12, 15, 17, 19, 20, 25, 30, and then 18-2.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's got to be something like that because it's not on the check. It's just it just says 18 on the check. So
it's at that sunglass deal where you like wear it on stage, and if it's on then they.
I think so, and that was like totally, I didn't really do that on purpose. I just can't see without my glasses, so. But
that's pretty funny. All right, man.
Yeah.
Where's the next stop at? Where are you headed?
So the next stop, well, I'm going to see Panger down at Harris Chain pretty soon here.
Yeah,
he's going to be able to shake off some of that frostbite you guys.
We're fishing against each other, right?
I know, right?
We got all sorts of over-unders and side bets and viewer call-ins, Mark. I mean, between me and Hallman and Miles and every league we got going on there, you could do head-to-heads, better than, worse than, over-unders, total weight, number of meltdowns.
I'm gonna wager some Buc-ee's pickled quail eggs.
How good are those, though?
They are so legit. I gave them to the service trailer guys, because it was one of their birthdays, and then David over at Mercury, I gave him a jar because he's just awesome, and I'm glad that they didn't end up getting sick from them because then they'd never work on my stuff ever again.
Miles, that's a veteran move. Listen to a fellow Buc-ee's guy picked up the quail eggs, realized the service crew the service crew's the coolest dudes around.
Awesome.
Harold Allen's always told me that. He goes, they'll never BS you, except he said B, they cook good food, C, they take care of your stuff. They're on the road just as much as you. He goes, these guys roll in, they say fix my crap and don't even think about it. And he said, man, find out what they drink. Find out what they like. He said, go hang out with them. He goes, you'll hang out with the service crew more than you will the fellow anglers because they don't give a damn what you're doing on the water. They just want to have a good time and drink whiskey.
They are the best, man. And I always try to take care of them. I've even gone as far to like load up coolers in the past, leave coolers full of food for them and stuff like that. And I try to take care of them because they definitely bend over backwards to take care of us.
Yeah. But, all right, man. Great job, dude.
Hey, thanks for having me on such short notice, and let's do something later on down the line.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
You sounds almost good, man. Wait, one more final thing. So Miles in the Best on Tour newsletter put together all of the entire cost of the front deck of his boat if he were to just walk into a place. Obviously, he's got sponsors. Walk into a place and say, there it is right there. Say, I want that motor guide and that Laureates and that Humminbird and that Garmin and everything, and it was like right at $14,000. So you covered it in the first Derby and paid your entry fee, Miles. So you're already ahead the rest of the year. You're now fishing for free with all that fancy stuff.
And guess what? Even though bassboatelectronics.com set me up, look what I only had a Lowrance. It had 0 sonar on the boat the entire week for this top 10.
So you didn't run either of those.
I took everything off. All I had was my Navionics mapping and just so I could see my waypoints and everything.
It's amazing you ever caught a fish, Miles.
I pulled my way to another 6th place finish. The last 3 top 10s have all been 6th place.
Oh, so. A push pull. I bet that was made out of carbon fiber. According to our viewers, you should only be able to use a natural branch to propel yourself forward.
Yes.
Really? We've been getting so much feedback on that. I went off on a tangent that It's
Are you
been a
kidding?
week long. Yeah.
That's insane because I work so hard. Like how
I'm
can,
just-
I guess if they're just gonna complain about anything.
Oh,
Too much
good
electronics.
Job, dude. Good job, dude. We're way off. Jeffries was going to open the show, and now we're down quail eggs and natural branches.
I know. I just
right,
wanted
guys.
to give you props, man. Good job, dude. We'll have you on
Much
soon.
appreciated.
All right. Take care, man.
Take care.
See ya. There you have it. Miles Burghoff.
You didn't see it going there, did you, Mark?
No, I didn't. I did not. All right, man. Good show today. We're going to have Bernie Schultz on, as I mentioned. And we have a couple of winners. I did the math right before the show, dude. And check this out. The two events that took place, one being on the SJR and the other one on the Big O. For the Big O, better or worse? Hang on, let me make sure I've got the right. Yes, the winner is, for the $100 Visa gift card, is Josh from North Carolina. He selected Tim Frederick and took the under or the worse, and then his weight without going over, and that was a key, right? It was Price is Right rules. Weight without going over, 80.1 pounds. So, Josh in North Carolina, shoot me an email with your mailing info, and I will get that gift card to you. As for the SJR, this was pretty impressive, Matthew. Alex in Michigan. What was the winning weight? What was Brian New's winning weight?
It was 1 ounce above what Alex in Michigan picked. I know that.
That is correct. It was 79.7 was the winning weight, and his weight was 79.6. And
I got too many screens open here. I got Miles Burghoff screens. I got Skeet Reese screens.
He was an ounce under, and he selected Scott Martin, who did not have a good tournament.
Yeah, how about that? So I know that the I actually talked with someone pretty familiar with the situation. I know Scott had a decision to make on day one, and we didn't really get into that a whole bunch with Brian New yesterday in the post game show. But I knew that Scott had a decision to make about making a run, Mark.
Yeah,
and I think he opted to not make the run and then regretted that decision.
Yeah. Well, statistically, here's what we had. For the Elite Series at the St. John's, we had John Cox. The better or worse was 20th. He finished 37th. Scott Martin was 15th. He finished 73rd. Brian New was 30th and obviously ended up earning the blue trophy. Steve Kennedy was at 40th, and he finished 78th. And then the last entry was Jason Christie. We had the number set at 25, and his finish was 63rd. For action at the Big O, we had Bobby Lane finish over or better. The number was 20, and he finished 12th. Gray Buck finished 124th. Mr. Scanlon finished 144th. And then Tim Frederick, the number was 30th, and he finished 44th. So out of that group, only Bobby Lane finished better than what we set the number at. A final note, right, for the SJR, Brad, myself, and you all had our picks. Bradley took Brian New.
He smoked it. What was his weight?
78.13.
Yeah, Bradley was the one. I had a lot of faith in Steve Kennedy that did not pan out.
Yeah, and then I took John Cox with the worse than 82.2. So you did great in your fantasy, but you did a horrible job in that, Matthew.
Yeah, it didn't go. So just to reset, we had simultaneous events going on this week in case you've been living under a rock and haven't watched any of it. We had the first event of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, MLF. That was on Okeechobee. Obviously, we just saw Miles Burghoff in 6th. But how about Skeet Reese getting the job done, coming in with 27.9 on the final day to beat Chris Lane, who had a 20-pound bag, to rack out that top 10. I was looking at the top 10 guys who fished, and, Anthony Gagliardi, Chris Lane, and Skeet Reese, 3 of the 10 guys were we're MLF guys, BPT guys. And then over on the Elite Series, Brian knew his 9th tournament with Bass, his 2nd tournament in Florida, and the 2nd win that he's had. And he beat Greg Hackney by 10 pounds. So that's what we got going on.
What was the last tournament Skeet won?
I was trying to find that out. I'm not sure.
I thought you looked that up. That's why you said you had Ski Reese stuff opened up. I thought you might have.
No,
that
I
in
did.
front of you.
I'm not sure if he's won an MLF event though in the last 3 years, like a cup or something, because you'd have to go back to 2015 with Bass for a win.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get him on either Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. So the remainder of the week tomorrow, the Dean Pete Glusick is gonna come on.
I like when he comes on.
Yeah, they're doing some really cool stuff over at the Bass University. The digital age has changed the way that they have to do their seminars a little bit, and they've got some new stuff going on over there. So we're going to have him on. And then Drew Gregory on Wednesday, talk a little kayak, of which I know nothing about. And then day 4, Frank's going to be on. I know Frank's working on his stuff. He's had some requests after this Florida swing that want to talk about the Devil's Horse. Maybe that, I don't know. I'm not really sure what he's going to do on that. And then a special day 5 show with myself and Ken Duke on Friday is hopefully we reach the temperature mark above 32 degrees.
That's going to be the
Friday.
Over-under, better than or worse than temperature.
Jeez.
So let me ask you this, Mark.
Yeah.
If I understand this correctly, was it the top 4 anglers in that in the first stop on Okeechobee get an invite to the next BPT event?
That is correct.
So would it be the first 2 with Skeet and Chris finishing 1st and 2nd? Would it be the next 4 after that?
I'm working on getting clarification on that today.
Because
I think that is correct.
That would be Jim Neese Jr., Dickie Newberry, Bill McDonald, and our boy who we just had on with the surprise visit, Miles Burghoff. Now, the one thing I want to mention about this, dude, there were some old school anglers who pulled out top 10s of Okeechobee. Not old anglers, but guys who have been around a while. Pete Pons, top 10. Bill McDonald, top 10. Dickie Newberry, Texas legend, top 10. Chris, Skeet. I mean, look at all the years of experience in there. And then throw in Salzman and Burghoff and Cole Floyd. And I mean, you throw Anthony Gagliardi in there. That's impressive. And then Rusty Saluski finished 11th with some of the normal guys. But yeah, I need to go through and do the numbers on how the BPT anglers who are fishing the pro circuit this year. Because just kind of taking a quick glance at the top 25, I see Michael Neal and a Justin Lucas and a Bobby Lane and an Anthony Gagliardi. So it'll be interesting to see percentage-wise what checks they took from that event.
Yeah. All right. Tomorrow, I am also going to announce the 2 winners that are going to come on the show that are going to be or have been. They might have been a marshal at the SJR. We'll cover their entry fee. They'll come on the show. They'll talk a little bit about it. So based upon the entries that I received, I will make that announcement tomorrow on who the winners are for the Marshall giveaway.
Awesome.
That we're having on here on BTL. So just giving all kinds of stuff away there, dude.
Did you watch any of Okeechobee or the FS1? And what are your, just a 30-second comparison? I've seen some questions about that.
Yeah. Well, real quick, in case you didn't catch the post-game show with Brian New last night, the replay's out there. Go out, check that out. Some very good stuff. Very good comments from the callers too. We had the Sunline hotline open, so if you get a chance, go back and listen at that. We made some comments on the show last night about the Fox coverage. I thought it was outstanding. There was a little bit of confusion, I think, on where the show or where the coverage was going to appear on the website when it wasn't being broadcast live on FS1. The coolest thing I thought is if you didn't DVR it and you forgot about it or had something going on, they actually showed a replay of the morning's coverage on FS2 if you had that in your cable or satellite package. So a plethora of fishing and bowling yesterday on FS1 and FS2. So I was on cloud nine yesterday when it came to watching stuff that are really important to me. The stuff that was going on in the Big O, for people out there that don't know, it is a very, very difficult place to live stream from. There is just vast areas where you cannot get coverage on the Big O, and I thought the coverage that they had over on the MLF website was outstanding. They're doing
it's literally like Jurassic Park out there.
Yeah,
it's just
really, really
wild.
good.
Other news before we get to Bernie Schultz, real quick. I got an email, Mark. I have 18 mock-up designs for BTL clothing. Now, some of them are immediately out because you and I both are not huge fans of the fish design.
Yeah.
Correct, like a jumping fish with it or anything. And I understand why, if you're designing it, you would want it, or else everyone else would be like, "Oh, you're into music too. I like bass." But there are some that are definite players here, and they did a really good job of designing it. So we have reached the next step of the hat design. I wish I had one. I've got a hat design for the Richardson 112 that they didn't go with it. I'll have to tell them, but I think we're approaching. They're going to kind of do some they're going to take the fish out of the back. They're going to make sure they have the right graphic for the actual Bass Talk live lettering.
Yeah.
And I think we're good to go then for a pop-up site here probably in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Very nice.
I'm looking at it right now. It's weird to see all this stuff on clothing. It actually looks good. You did a good job on that logo. How long did that take you to make? I mean, because you did that a long time ago and it's never changed.
5 minutes.
You just went down and were like, I like that. I like that. I like that. Boom, BTO.
Pretty much. It's a long time ago. Pretty much. Hey, by the way, yes, I did watch the end of the Daytona 500. That was crazy. Late night racing. Fire, crashing, burning. Did you notice who the sponsor was of the winning car, Matt? An Oklahoma company.
Really? But, dude, I did take a picture. I saw an ad. Sorry, but this is a no. What company was it?
Love's.
Oh, I didn't know they were an Oklahoma company.
Oh yeah, big time donors to Bishop McGinnis High School here in Oklahoma City.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I found this. This was Daytona 500. I found this on Instagram. It's from Bush Beer. It says, "Looking for a new gig? We're interviewing for a chance to join Kevin Harvick's 2021 racing crew. Tune into Daytona this Sunday for your interview and tweet your answers live with the crew for your chance to win the opportunity of a lifetime." And then there's a picture. You could be like on his crew for a race.
Huh.
I thought that was really interesting.
Interesting.
Like, that totally opens up the door to all sorts of, like, you could be the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. I'd never seen that in a sport before like that, like a NASCAR, where it's like, hey, you could be on the pit crew.
Yeah.
You could be in the corner with Mike Tyson.
Be pretty cool. Some people are saying on the instant feedback in the comments that they should have rolled with some of the bass coverage on Fox rather than the Daytona 500 when they had the 6-hour rain delay. I don't know about that. A lot of that's prearranged. It's hard to change it up on the fly on that when you got that stuff going on. Anyway, here on a Monday, a cold, cold Monday, we're going to come back with Bernie Schultz. Everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The ultimate fishing system starts with Lowrance HDS Live. The best fish finding tools, from Chirp Sonar and Fish Reveal to active imaging and new Active Target Live Sonar, and complete touchscreen control from your trolling motor to your big motor. For a limited time, building the ultimate fishing system will be easier on your wallet. Upgrade to HDS Live with a Ghost trolling motor, Active Target Sonar, or Live Sight Sonar and save up to $800.
Basscat's legendary 20-foot platform has been paired with angler-approved accessories for 2021. Puma FTD features the proven hull used by many of the top names in bass fishing today, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. The Puma FTD boasts a full team deck concept which enhances efficiency for you and your tournament partners. Turnkey tournament winning performance. The Puma FTD SP from Basscat.
While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
Everyone, Brandon Polnick here. People always be asking me what I got tied on. And I'm like, X-Zone lures. And they're like, Brandon, why you got X-Zone lures tied on? And I'm like, let me show you why.
Bye.
Get out of there! Get out of there! Oh, yeah! Oh, it's pretty thinking. Get in here! Oh, gosh. Giant. Oh, my gosh! Oh, my gosh!
I think you get the point.
Let's face it, fishing electronics are no longer an afterthought. They've become a necessity. And at the Bass Tank, our experts match you with the right electronics, provide professional installation, and educate you to help maximize your catching results while providing support along the way. Because let's be honest, it's about catching, not just fishing. And when you're ready for better results, join the Bass Tank team. Visit us today on Facebook or go to thebasstank.com.
You've been waiting all week for this, and Sunline wants to make sure you're ready for it with bulk spools of all your favorite fishing lines.
That's so fun.
Bulk up with Sunline.
Pro-inspired, pro-designed. Tested and proven by legends on the water. Dominating the tournament trail for over 50 years. Everything you need, one legendary brand. Strike King.
Hey guys, Major League Fishing Pro, Jacob Wheeler here with my new Signature Series line of rods with Duck It Fishing. We have my 7.2 cranking rod right here. Crankbaits can be very fickle, and having the right, having a lot of tip can be too much, and having not enough tip can, lose a lot of fish. So you really got to be careful. If there's one or two techniques that I'm really adamant about having the perfect action as a crankbait, especially like a square bill, a DT6, those medium running crankbaits in the springtime when those fish's mouth are pretty tough. That's when I'm really on top of having my actions just perfect.
Big companies get bigger and bigger and talk about their fancy labs where they study fish behavior, but then they all go golfing on the weekend. We don't have a large laboratory to test baits. Why, you ask? We don't need a big laboratory because our pros fish, our employees fish, our salespeople fish, our suppliers fish, our mold builders fish, our owners fish, and our kids fish. This is our laboratory. Our R&D comes from time on the water, learning how to make fish bite. All that time on the water brings us thousands of hours of testing new products and improving current ones for all species.
All of us on the Pro Tournament Trail use Gamakatsu hooks. Why? Because they are absolutely the best.
It's not about how many bites you get.
It's how many you put in the boat.
Gamakatsu makes hooks for every fishing style.
We didn't come this far to lose fish.
Did you?
For more information, visit gamakatsu.com.
All right, we are back on a Monday, kicking off the week, a jam-packed week here on BTL. And it is time to go to our guest from sunny, warm, fabulous Florida.
He's going to be tan. He's probably going to be wearing a visor. He's going to be smiling.
All right, let's bring him in now. Bernie, how you doing, man?
I'm good. No visor. Sorry, Matt.
But tan and smiling, that's more than we could say at Oklahoma.
Yeah, we've had some really nice weather. I mean, it was rainy, but it was real warm, and the fish were biting pretty good if you could get to them last week at the St. John's. But I feel sorry for you guys in the cold north there.
Oh, it's horrible. Anyway, let's do this, man. 40th place finish this week. Kind of sum up your week.
Well, we had a fog delay. I'm sure most of the listeners are aware that we didn't get off till 10:15. First boat left the dock at 10:15 on Thursday, and I was locking into Rodman Reservoir, which is about 15 minutes down or upriver to the south. The St. John's flows to the north, and then you got the locking time. So by the time the late start and then the locking delay and finally getting to the fish, we only had a 2.5 hour window to fish, and I managed to get 3 keepers that weighed 6 pounds in the boat, and then lock back through and go to weigh in. So that kind of sums up my first day. I just didn't have a lot of time to fish. On day 2, incredibly, it was foggy and they let us go. I was kind of shocked, I was proud of Lisa Talmadge. She was running the program there, did a heck of a job, and there was plenty of visibility once you got around the corner. Right there where takeoff was a little questionable, but once you got around the corner, visibility was really good, and she knew that. So she let us go, and I had a full day of fishing. Had a really fun day of topwater fishing. It was one of the best topwater days I've had in a while. It took a while to get them going on it. Once I figured out how to catch them, I think it was about 20 pounds in the boat. And then on day 3, I got the same number of bites, just no big bites. But it was a good save. After a disastrous first day, I'm not too disappointed. Sure, you always want to do better, but it could have been a season crusher if I hadn't been able to rebound on day 2.
Yeah.
Bernie, did I hear you say that 1913 on day 2 all came on top?
Yes, sir. Yes,
well, walk us through that. This is Jeffrey's dream come true right here. 20 pounds on topwater in February.
Yeah. Once in a while, things line up in Florida where you can get a good topwater bite in the wintertime. We had just the perfect scenario. We had a warming trend. It's been really cold in Florida. Nothing like you're experiencing right now with this winter storm, but we had some upper 20 degree mornings, plenty of 30 degree mornings in the last, throughout January and early February. And then we got this warming trend the week of the tournament and really turned things around. The fish were so fat and full and just, ready to go on bed. Once they got that 3rd or 4th day of warm nights, the water temperature got in the 60s, and here they came. And they were hard to catch. The bedding fish weren't easy. As the week progressed, if you survived the cuts, they got easier for some. But in my area, they were kind of tough, and the females just wouldn't react to any kind of bottom presentation. I ended up kept trying, and jerk baits and swim baits and twitch baits, like floating minnows and stuff, and that didn't work. So then I went to a prop bait, and it was lights out.
If you happen to fish in Florida in the next month and there might be a topwater bite, what are 3 topwaters you would make sure were in your boat when you're headed down? Just to say any Central Florida location in the next month or so. You
definitely want a tandem, slim profile tandem prop bait, like a Devil's Horse or a Rapala X-Rap prop or a Boy Howdy. Those kind of baits work really well when the fish are in the mood for a prop bait. And I would have one of those, at least one of those tied on. A popper can work. It's usually later when a popper comes to life, but and walking baits also, skitter walks and Spooks rather, can be really good this time of year. But for me, it's a prop bait, and I work at super slow.
All right,
Needlefish. That's the needlefish deal, right?
Or is that? Yeah, that's why they.
Are you one of those lot of people?
Well, I believe a paddle tail worm, like a ultravibe speed worm, is or a swim Cinco is a better example of or representation of a needlefish, and especially on a high speed retrieve.
So what's with the prop bait in Florida? You literally could probably throw that across the country. It's the only time I've never heard of anyone be like, you know what, we caught him on Grand on prop bait.
Yeah,
it's always down in Florida.
It's something about a prop bait in the South. Louisiana's good. I've had good days on Rayburn and Toledo Bend with prop baits. I think there's a component to Florida strain largemouth that make a prop bait so useful, so productive. But there's something about it. It agitates the surface of the water just right, just enough to get their attention. And I think the tendency of most people is to overwork the bait. They think as long as they're making noise, they're attracting fish, and that can be counterproductive in a major way, especially during the spawn or some phases of the spawn. I think you're better off just getting their attention and then letting the profile of the bait sit there and just kind of do the rest of it.
Hey, Bernie, part of the reason why I wanted to get you on after this event is just the whole mystique and the longevity of Florida fishing, and it's so stereotypical in the minds of people that are outside the state of Florida. When you get ready to plan a trip to Florida, you're going to do this, this, and this, and that's pretty much it. There's a comment that somebody has brought up. Why do you think that Hackney and Menendez were the only two at the top that figured out the cypress tree bite? Why was that such a different player for those guys in Florida?
Yeah, those guys were extremely lucky. I mean, they're great fishermen. I don't want to take anything away from them, but to get 4 days of calm conditions, I mean, those trees are super shallow, and there's a lot of sediment on the, around the base of those trees. And when there's any kind of wave action, it roils the water up, and there's no way those fish are going to, react to any kind of presentation when the water's nasty. Florida bass like clear water. They feed better in clear water, and your chances of success are a lot better in clear water. You see that on Okeechobee. Guys doing really good in the tournament in one part of the lake, the wind changes directions. He's got to go to a new part of the lake to be successful. And that's the same on the St. Johns River in Lake Crescent or Lake George. If you're fishing shallow cypress trees, when that wind gets up, you're in deep trouble. And those guys got really lucky. They got 4 days of very stable conditions, very light winds, and my hat's off to them. It's a roll of the dice. I don't know what they had for backup, but they didn't need it. Obviously, they both did really well.
All right, Matt.
No, I was just looking at it. It's crazy. Obviously, there's a weird component of you being able to catch them up north, but I'm trying to pull up, and I don't know if you fished any of the FLW stuff way back in the day. I'm unable to find it right now, but dude,
I did.
And you probably had top 10s there, but in all of your tournaments with bass, and now take Seminole out because they'll say that's part in Georgia, but in totally encompass Florida lakes, dude, you only have one top 10 in your career. A lot of checks, a lot of cash checks, but that blew my mind.
Yeah, it may be too much information working against me. I've never been great on the St. Johns River. I won a boat there early in my career, and I've had some good. I've won tournaments that were small scale tournaments there, but it's not. I don't consider it home waters. It's a really challenging fishery. The fish there, I mean, you can find them one day really good, and they not only are not there the next day, they're never there again. They travel, they follow the bait, they set up in different places. I don't really understand it that well. And when there's less grass, it makes it even more challenging. And this year we had no grass in the river. And so I opted for Rodman Reservoir. But yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I probably am my worst enemy in Florida tournaments.
That was a big question coming into this. Now, if I believe it correct, this is what, the 5th, 6th time you guys have gone to the St. Johns River, but Rodman had not been open. and you had a lot of different like manatee zones and idle stuff this year, and with a lot of new anglers too. But how much of a factor did the fact that Rodman was open play in this tournament? Because it seems like there were some checks that came out of there, and it really kind of made guys make a lot of different tough decisions, especially with the fog delay.
Yeah. Well, let me correct you real quick. Rodman has been a player in previous events. It wasn't last year. The only time we're not allowed to go to Rodman is when it's in a drawdown.
Okay.
It's a catch and release situation. The Fish and Game Commission mandate that you have to release everything you catch during the drawdown. So that takes it out of play for tournament fishing. But we have been able to access Rodman in the past, and it's been a player in the past. It's been, in years ago, it was, the place to be. And it's making it made a really good showing this year. Patrick Walters, came close. He had a fourth day stumble, but Rodman accounted for a lot of checks. There were multiple 20, plus pound stringers came out of there. I know Brian Snowden did well, and I had a good day in there. It's hard to be consistent in any part of the St. John's, including Rodman. But yeah, it's a good lake, and it's a good option. I like it when we have it because it spreads the anglers out. Back in the day when there was a drawdown and there was, Palm Point and Lake George had eelgrass, 90% of the field was on Palm Point. It was almost laughable, but that's it's good to have more water.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen is KVD power pole down, bed fishing the eelgrass, and you could count like 31 other boats in the general area. Yeah. And just to watch him trying to do that it's just, there were guys that you never see do, like, never bed fish, never be in a crowd, and never fish that slow. And they're all just like, zoom, like I've got a photo. I think there's 19 Elite Series guys. I think it was probably the year that Alton Jones won, so like 2012. There's like 19 Elite Series guys in one patch of eelgrass on Lake George. It's freaking unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm sure Kevin was in agony during that whole event.
No, he was not having fun.
No.
Yeah, he likes to move. He's a chunk and wine and cover lots of water guy. But we didn't have that option this year. There is no grass in the river. It's been, it's gone. And they blame hurricanes and high water, and the seeds can't, about the time they sprout, there's manatees and carp eating, the fresh greenery as it starts to bud. So I don't know what they're going to do about it. Maybe a planting program. They have plenty of money for spraying. It seems like they could put some of that money toward planting when there is a total depletion of habitat.
Bernie, in Florida, is there a difference between the way that the fish spawn in Florida compared to other areas of the country that have similar cover, be it grass and pads and stuff? Is there a uniqueness to the way that these fish in Florida move in? Because we heard guys talk about it for years. It's all about the timing. What can you say about that?
Well, timing is critical, and full moon phases are usually the dominant player. If the conditions, there's so many variables. I mean, the water temperature's got to be right, water level's got to be right, it's got to be stable for a certain length of time, and the moon can definitely impact that. But in habitat, they got to have a place to spawn. This year, lily pads were a major player. Most of that river is soft bottom, and so to get a firm place to fan and to maintain a bed, the fish will use the root systems, the tubers that when a lily pad grows, it has like surface to some subsurface root to it, and the fish will use that firm part of the root and buff it off and use that for a bedding site. There's plenty of sand areas, but not all the fish can go to the same areas. So when they spread out, they look for something firm that they can buff off. This year was weird. The females, a lot of guys were licking their chops. I stayed at Cliff Prince's place, and Drew Cook and Drew Benton were both staying there, and they're big time bed fishermen, and they were excited about what they saw the last day of practice. There were a lot of big females moving in, and we had the off day Wednesday, and then when they got there on Thursday morning, a lot of those big females were gone, just completely vacated. And that was the case for me and Rodman. I was trying to bed fish, and I had numerous really good sized females located, and they were also gone. So, I don't know. It seemed like earlier in my career, the females hung around longer, and it's almost like they've been conditioned to the fishing pressure. They dump the eggs and leave. That's kind of my assessment.
Interesting.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Matt?
We're headed to a tournament now that you know what the weather is here and what's going across the country. This one could be a grinder coming up in Tennessee on the river in a couple weeks.
Yeah. I watched the video of the Bassmaster Classic that Ott won, and I like the style of fishing. Everything's pretty much shallow, and I like reeling and winding. But I don't know that that'll work this time. If it gets that cold, especially if the water – I heard from Matt Herron. I talked to him about it a little bit, and he's fished there quite a bit. And he said that water can get really turbid quick. If there's a lot of rain and they let the water come up, it can get really stained quick. And that could change that bite. If it's really cold on top of it, you live where if it's high and muddy, you're challenged. Not you specifically, but anglers.
I'm always challenged.
No, I know better than that. But anyway, it's going to be the same for everybody. I'm looking forward to it. I don't like cold weather, but I'll acclimate and I'll survive it.
Yeah. So I ask you that knowing that you're a man with an extensive lure collection. You always show us. Last time you showed us 100-year-old frog that Dean Rojas copied.
We're going to get into that.
We are?
Yeah, we're going to get into that in a little bit here.
Oh, okay. Because I wanted to turn it into, we saw what happened on the Tennessee River last time, and I wanted to know what Bernie's earliest balsa crankbait that he has is. Like, were they carving balsas 100 years ago? Or is that like a newer thing?
No, I actually did a series on the first lure in each category. And the first crankbait was made by Creek Chub Bait Company in Indiana around 1918. Or maybe 1916 they had prototypes, but it was actually marketed, I believe, in 1918. And it was the first diving bill crankbait with a buoyant body, wood body. So I won't be throwing those, but I will be throwing probably some Bagley and some Rapala DTs and some flat-sided square bills that are custom made, and probably a 1.5, 2.0. I'll try a lot of different crankbaits and try to settle in on one, but it could be a chatterbait thing. But I got a sneaking suspicion, as cold as it's going to be, it may come down to just a jig bite, super slow.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we've had a jig soaking derby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has been. Yeah. Bernie, a lot of people, there was a lot of discussion about bass fishing being at the forefront, being on Fox, and a lot of new eyeballs watching what goes on in this game. And there was quite a bit of discussion over the last couple of days about whether or not nets should be allowed. And a lot of the footage for people that aren't familiar with tournament fishing, seeing the guys, just kind of swinging the fish and letting them go wherever they go. What are your thoughts on that? And what are your feelings? I don't think I've ever asked you about your thoughts on using nets.
Yeah, that's a great debate. I prefer a net. I think there's less stress on the fish. You don't battle the fish as long if you have a net. I know, Ray Scott's the reason we don't have nets on the Elite Series. He wanted more drama. He wanted more lost fish at the side of the boat. That made for good TV.
Yeah.
But watching guys boat flip fish onto carpet, that's not good either. There's got to be a happy medium in there somewhere. I don't know. I just think some nets are okay for the fish's health. They don't wipe the slime off. They don't damage the fish's body if you're careful the way you net them. And I like that aspect. I think it shortens the fight to the point where they're not as stressed out, especially in the summer months. But the way these guys are handling fish, we need to address that. There was some issues, and a lot of guys were guilty of it. I don't boat flip fish like that and flop them on the carpet. I try not to. Sometimes they come off in the air, but I try not to ever let them hit the carpet. I try to lip them if I can at the side of the boat. and you know, I'm not a biologist, but I know the slime coating on a fish is critical to their survival. And I try to do what I can to maintain the health of the fish. And I think most guys do, but man, when you're amped up and there's so much on the line and you got a big one on, you can't get that fish in the boat quick enough. And that's where a lot of the problem lies.
Yeah. All right, great stuff. I want to ask you this, back to the Florida scene. How many, when we look at the new anglers that are coming out on tour, not a whole lot, a few, but not really like it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s and even in the 2000s, the number of anglers that are coming out of Florida and dominating on tour and even, you know, performing well on tour. Why is that? And is Florida one of the most difficult places or easy places to establish your repertoire of techniques to be able to compete at the highest level?
Well, you know, we're challenged for reservoir type fishing. You know, we have reservoirs, but they don't play out anything like the ones in the, you know, farther north. You know, Florida's just a unique environment in its own right. It's, you know, most of the lakes are shallow, dishpan shaped lakes. There's not a lot of contour lines. It's more about vegetation or docks. The St. Johns River is maybe an exception because it has shell bars and some structure that way. But most of the reservoirs in Florida, it's more about fishing the wood or the grass. When I got on the tour, when I was, you know, right out of college, I got on the tour and it was a learning experience. You know, I got on tour to learn more about fishing, really. And it was a slow process. We didn't have all the immediate information that there is available today. These kids get on tour now and they've got a full repertoire, especially with electronics. You know, when I was starting out, we had flashers, and then the X15 graph came out, and that was like something from NASA. You know, and then we had you know, what was it before GPS? I can't even think of what it's called now. It was very crude navigation. It was scrambled all the time.
A compass?
Excuse me?
A compass?
No, that's not that far back.
I just try to help there, Bernie.
Rocks and the sun.
Loran.
A sundial.
Loran. You guys remember Loran, right? Not Lowrance, but Loran.
Right.
I did not remember that.
I do.
Yeah, well, that's what we had in the beginning, and you know, a lot of guys embraced that. But the problem was the government controlled it, and they would scramble the you know, the numbers. So you might punch the numbers on a spot one day, and you'd be 50 feet away from it the next time you tried to get there because they were always scrambling the numbers. But Loran was the first GPS for us. Anyway, nowadays there's so many tools, electronic tools, you know, and these guys are aces at it. They're raised with it. You're of that generation, Matt. You know electronics a lot better than I do, I'm sure. And it's like old dogs learning new tricks. It's not easy. You know, we learned with flashers and the X15 graph. So there's a lot of technology transition that kind of changes the way guys come into the sport now. So
you've been around a long time. Who was the longest guy that you could remember that fished at the tour level without any electronics on his boat? Was there a guy that held out that he was like, screw the flasher, screw the X15, screw the Loran, I'm using my rod tip. Was there any of those old school holdouts?
Yeah, I'm sure most everybody had a flasher. And a lot of guys went to the paper graphs. Steve Kennedy comes to mind. That guy was a holdout. He didn't have electronics for a long time and just fished what was in front of him. He's got electronics now, but if you remember, he had a pretty bare bones boat for a long time on the Elite Series.
Yeah.
He may have had a graph, but I don't think he used it much.
He had a graph on a board, like it was like a wooden board, and he would hang the transducer over the side.
Yeah,
because he had like 9 boats, so he just would like switch it.
Maybe I just never saw it. He had it between his feet down on the deck of the boat. But
I just wondered if there's a guy in the 70s and the 80s and stuff who just was like, nah, I just used the rod tip, just like a John Cox in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, maybe so. I can't nobody comes to mind. I can tell you the guy that's on the other end of the spectrum was Roland. Roland wanted anything. He had all the different depth finders, and he had Loran. He was the first guy to have Loran on a bass boat in tournaments. And, like I said, that was our first global positioning option. As, challenged as it was, at least we had something. And sometimes it would get you back to where you found the fish. A lot of times it did. You were in the area, but you weren't pinpointed.
So, Bernie, is Florida one of those states and elements if somebody is looking to expand and become a national touring professional, that it's kind of like, with all respect, it's just a blip on the radar? You got to get through one, maybe two tournaments and move on down the road so you don't spend a lot of time down there? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, a lot of guys treat it that way, that, Florida's a challenge for guys from out of state, a lot of them. Some guys do really well. I mean, look at Hackney, he does really well down here, and whether the fish are spawning or not. Flippers tend to do well in Florida, whether the fish are in the spawn cycle or not. They seem to do well. So there's ways to survive Florida. And I think that's how a lot of guys from up north see it. When it's on the schedule, they look at Florida like, I got to get through that one. And I kind of look at it that way when we're on the St. John's. If we're on Okeechobee or the Harris Chain or Toho, any of those lakes, I have more confidence. I feel like I'm going to be more consistent through the course of the tournament. The St. John's is so fickle; it's hard to put 3 or 4 days together. And I think that's probably how a lot of guys see it.
Matt?
Are we talking about old Bates, Mark?
I'm ready, man. I got some stuff that Bernie sent to me that we're going to talk a little bit about. So
all right, because I'm ready to go there, because if every time he's got something that's cool.
Yeah, well, before the show, I've sent some links to Mark to put some images up on the screen. I just wanted to tell people listening or viewing that Florida was a hotbed for lure development. There were definitely lure production was going on earlier in the northern part of the country, but Florida was a testing ground for a lot of those companies, especially in the wintertime, like you're experiencing now. You couldn't even think about going out and dragging a lure around, but in Florida we still can. So they'd come down and they would test their lures here in the winter. But Florida also had its own manufacturing companies. There was like a group of smaller cottage type manufacturers that got going early, and then some bigger ones. This is an interesting bait right here. This is the what a lot of guys that collect Florida lures believe to be the first walking bait. Head and collectors would challenge that. They believe that the Zaragoza, which is the predecessor to the Zara Spook, which every angler carries. If you throw a topwater, you've got a Zara Spook in your box. The predecessor to the Zara Spook was called a Zaragoza, and the first version had what we refer to as a no chin feature. And you can see it on this bait, this Cox minnow. That's called a Cox Tampa Bay minnow, and it has a scalloped out chin. And it's almost identical to the first Hedden walking bait. And it was a big subject of controversy. There's a guy named Kobe Sorrells that does really great research, and he's in the National Fishing Lure Collectors Club. He helped me, kind of corrected me really, and found the origins. But Hedden was credited with developing the first walking bait, and that was erroneous. It was a rep that worked for Hedden that discovered the bait during his travels, and as far back as Kobe could find the source, it was in Pensacola, a guy that was hand carving these baits, and he found him on the docks apparently right there in Pensacola Bay. And the rep, like most reps, when they see something in the field, took the idea back to the manufacturer, and that created what we know as the first walking bait.
So they would be using that for what? Mackerel and bluefish and tarpon and stuff like that?
Yeah, and there's a river that feeds. The river that comes into that bay is full of bass, so I'm sure they use it for a lot of different fish, whatever would bite it. And that was in the late teens, like 19, 16, 17, 18, right in there. That's a long time ago. and more than 100 years, and we don't know for sure if that guy was first. I mean, that's as far back as we can trace the origins of the first walking cigar shaped type bait.
Hang on here.
There's some others. Maybe you can bring the shrimp up.
What river is that going into Tampa Bay? Because I fish for sheep's head all around that area.
Yeah, I believe that's in Pensacola. I believe that's the river out of. That should be the river out of Seminole.
Okay, because there's a bunch of crazy
wrong on that,
massive current freshwater meets saltwater stuff, and you like walk out on them and you're like, this is crazy. And then there's guys that are like, oh no, I catch like giant Goliath grouper and huge tarpon. And I mean, it's nuts what you can catch off the piers are out there.
Yeah, I may be wrong on that. I'm not sure where that river is. I should know that, but that's not my part of the state. But
that's fine.
Anyway, there's here, I'll hold it up and maybe Mark can find it. This is a unique bait. Let me get it up here where you can see it.
Whoa.
This is
Hold on a second. Hang on a minute here.
It's reticulated.
It is. It's an articulated shrimp.
Or articulated. Not art. It's R or reticulated? Articulated?
Articulating.
Yeah.
It's got a jack chain in the middle of the body. I'm not doing a good job here.
Well, yeah, your camera's hitting you with some weird
How's
lighting.
that?
Right? Yeah, that looks good. Yeah.
Okay.
That looks like a chainsaw blade.
Yeah. So basically, it has a chain running through the center of the body, and it's plastic. It's an early form of plastic. It's called celluloid. And the designer of this thing was a dentist in St. Augustine, Florida. And you can see the eyes on there. Those are ladies' hat pins of the period. The women use pins to hold their hats on because it was a windy day or whatever, or to keep it just right, I guess. But anyway, hat pins were used for the eyes. This dentist, living in St. Augustine, he is obviously an angler. St. Augustine used to be the shrimping capital of the United States. And it was, early in 1900s that got established. And shrimp migrated up the St. Johns River. They do every year. It's a big deal. And the bass feed on them. They forage on them huge. It's like a shad run in the fall in the reservoirs. The bass on the St. Johns River and the Suwannee River, they do it there also. Look for shrimp. That's the primary forage at certain times of the year. Well, this guy said, all the bait shops are selling shrimp. He said, well, I can design an artificial shrimp so you don't have to worry about keeping your bait alive and healthy during the day. And his name was Farron, and he had a brother-in-law named Eddles, and they collaborated, and Eddles kind of took over the production, and they made these celluloid shrimp. What's interesting is about that same time, there was a guy trying to get a flying machine off the ground on the beach in St. Augustine, and he tethered this flying machine, which actually flapped like a bird. It was mechanized by a bicycle type of arrangement. He pedaled to keep the wings flapping, but it took a car or a vehicle to tether and pull this thing into the air before he could really get airborne. Well, he didn't get very far. He crashed and burned, and so the dentist bought this failed aircraft and used the celluloid wings to make the shrimp, which is kind of interesting. And again, I gave Mark a picture. I don't guess he can get it up.
No, I couldn't.
So when you pull the front, it kicks the tail?
Yeah, I mean, you impart action. It's kind of like a jerkbait thing, I'm sure. As you twitch the thing, it would just kind of collapse. I'm going the wrong way. It would kind of collapse, and you just snap it in the water like that.
Here it is.
I mean,
Hang on.
I've never put one in the water because I'm afraid to damage the thing. But it's one of the first articulating baits made in Florida, and they're highly desirable. A lot of collectors look for these things, and they came in all different sizes. There was a fly rod size, which I've got one right here. That's the fly rod size.
Oh, wow. Does anyone fish shrimp stuff like on the St. Johns River? Like, is there ever a tournament where you're like flipping a shrimp?
Absolutely. Yeah, guys they'll buy shrimp and or they'll use DOA shrimp, the artificial.
The redfish.
They'll fish the docks with them. Absolutely, and the fish will school on shrimp. It's the craziest thing. You'll see shrimp go flipping out of the water, and the bass are chasing them.
What do you throw for? I mean, you just throw like redfish and speckled trout stuff.
you need to get Cliff Prince on here for that, because he's a master. Terry Scroggins, those guys know more about that. I've never really fished the shrimp run other than skipping docks with soft plastics. They're pretty aggressive when the tide's right and the bite's on. I would think just about anything that moves where they are would catch one. But I know a lot of anglers use live shrimp over there when that's happening.
Is that like a deal that those guys don't really like to talk about? Because is that kind of just like a, hey, let's just not talk about the shrimp run?
No, it's common knowledge. You just got to be down here and be around it. But there's a lot of other fishing going on at the time, so it's not like the focal point of Florida angling. It's just something that a lot of people do in that area.
All right, Bernie, what about this?
They go also just to harvest shrimp, to collect shrimp.
Yeah.
Those baits there, that's called the torpacuda. It's a and you would think because of the props that it's a surface lure. It's actually a sinking bait. It's kind of like a spy bait. The earliest minnows, there were some floating minnows, but a lot of the earliest minnows were actually sinking trolling lures, and were designed to spin underwater. The props rather would spin underwater. They're wood body baits. They have bellies that are weighted with lead and to keel the bait, and they were just kind of steady reeled or maybe twitched. I wasn't around back then, so I can't really tell you, but those particular baits right there were made by Florida Fishing Tackle Manufacturing Company, and their brand was called the Barracuda brand. And some of the baits had a feathered back, like you can see two of those do. Mm-hmm. Some versions had no feather. Those are kind of neat baits. They're in St. Petersburg was where they were originated. But those are just some of the examples of Florida made lures back in the 20s and 30s. And like I said, Florida was a key player in lure development in our country. And to anybody listening, it's important to note that the first lures, plugs per se, wooden body lures, were developed in America, not overseas, not in Europe, not in Asia. It was an American phenomena. And so we could kind of hang our hat on that. And as you know, it's 100 and something years later, we're still using wood body lures. They're still popular. And all that started in our culture, which is kind of cool to me.
All right.
We should probably talk about that tournament. Oh, you want that? Well, this guy's cool. It's going to be hard for people to see, but these are Jim Pfeffer lures. He's from Orlando, Florida, and he made his lures from the 20s up into probably the 60s, I guess, 50s, late 50s. He was a topwater expert, fresh and salt. He liked to redfish and trout fish on the Mosquito Lagoon, which is east of Orlando, over where Cape Canaveral is, and north. There's a saltwater estuary called Mosquito Lagoon, and he developed lures for that. Probably his most notable lure was the banana lure, which was fished on the Banana River, which is part of that same waterway, saltwater waterway. And then he also developed topwater baits for bass around the Orlando area. His baits were very popular. They were kind of limited distribution. It was hard to get them, and he made them one at a time in a shop with his wife and some helpers. But very folky looking baits. And anybody interested in this stuff, they can go to my website, BernieSchultzFishing.com, and they can see I have an index of antique tackle, and these companies are featured there, so they can get an idea of what we're looking at.
What's really cool, my dad has sent me, he's really big into patents in Illinois, so he goes back and he goes through the patent offices and the archives, and he's sent me printed out some patents for early lures that were designed in Illinois. Is that how you find some of your information too, is go back and find patents?
Absolutely. There's a lot of guys that are more versed on this than I am. I'm pretty distracted with other things, but and they're very centered and focused on it. And yes, patent research is a big deal. It really is.
All right, we're looking at a picture. This is for our iTunes listeners. This is a picture. It says the second yearly national, what does that say? Freshwater bass tournament from 1929.
That's exactly right.
A poster. Is it a poster?
It is. And I want to show you, if you can see this. This is a trophy. This is the 1930 trophy. to my knowledge, this is the first national bass tournament. Now, there were tournaments before. There were basically challenges before that. But, yeah, let me see if how's that?
Bernie is now holding a cup.
Yeah,
I'm
this
sure Ken Duke has
cup.
tried to purchase from him every year for the last 30 years.
Yeah, Ken Duke wants this, and I love Ken Duke, but
he's not getting your
not
cup.
Getting this one, I don't think. I don't know. Maybe.
There we
Maybe
go.
But anyway, this is the only example I know of. This they refer to it as the silver cup, but it was basically a tourist draw. There was a enterprising guy in Leesburg, Florida, that worked for the chamber. He might have been the mayor. I don't remember what his title was, but he was a city councilman, I believe, and he saw an opportunity to develop this bass tournament to attract people to his area of the state in the wintertime. So they held this tournament from January to March, and it was the biggest bass in various categories, men and women, with live bait or with trolling and fly rod. There's that better picture of it right there. And that's some of my collection behind it. And so they would hold this thing for a couple of months, and the winner would be announced at the end of the season. And ironically, a couple of times is won on the last day or the day before the last day, which is a little suspect. It's how somebody caught the biggest fish of the competition at the very end. But anyway, be that as it may, it was pretty popular. And to our knowledge, this is the first nationally advertised and recognized bass competition, but it was a big bass competition, and it was open to anybody outside the state for a while because they didn't want to encourage the local advantage. They wanted to discourage that, and it was to attract people to Leesburg, to what is that? I think that's Citrus County, maybe not Citrus County.
So how'd you get it? If you don't mind, if it's a secret.
I'm a fellow collector.
Okay.
Another fellow collector. He kind of his deal is trophies, but he's a saltwater collector, and he found this freshwater trophy, and it didn't mean that much to him, so I got it from him.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, and like I said, that the competition ran from I think 1928 to 34 or 5, but there were 2 years it didn't run because of the Depression. 31 and 32, they did not have the competition. So
that's savage. Bo wants to know if that's the first tournament you won as a youth, and that's how you got that trophy.
Yeah,
that's a low blow.
It was pretty competitive. I mean, a lot of people entered, and apparently was highly prized and valued. A lot of guys really wanted to win that event. And I'm sure there were definitely competitions before that, but not on a national scale that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's collectors out there that may have some bit of information. It'd be neat to have that come, public, so that we would know, more people would know about them.
That is really, really cool stuff. And once again, if people want to see more of this stuff and what exists in your collection, where do they go, Bernie?
BernieSchultzFishing.com, or there's a lot of places to get involved. Facebook has multiple collector pages. You just get on there and start, searching old company names or collectors, vintage tackle collecting, and they'll pop up. The internet's full of them also. And there's clubs. The National Fishing Lure Collectors Club is a great place to get started. ORCA, which is the Old Reel Collectors Association, their focus is on reels, but there's a lot of those guys do lures and other types of tackle collectible. There are different regional clubs like the Florida Antique Tackle Collectors, the Carolina Antique Tackle Collectors. They're all over the place. And I would encourage anybody that is interested in the history of our sport or the development of tackle in our country, they should join these clubs or at least look into them. And there's message boards online, Joe's Old Lures. There's a lot of places, a lot of resources, and more the merrier. I mean, this stuff is important. It's historical. It needs to be preserved. And the younger generation really needs to embrace it because it's part of our culture. There was influence from Europe and from Asia. Jig type lures came from there, but Europe was responsible for a lot of spinners and a lot of metal baits and the earliest reels. But I would encourage anybody that has an interest in this to pursue it.
Very cool. Bernie, you ever ice fished?
I have not. I've actually turned down some offers.
Oh, dude, you got to go do it. You got to go do it. It's worth doing it once. I just did it for the first time a couple months ago. It had always been on the bucket list. I mean, I never had a burning desire, but go with some guys who know what's up, and you'll enjoy it. Well, it's a lot more hunting than I thought. It's not just like I mean, I don't know. You might go with someone who's just like, here, drink this bottle of vodka and we'll move in 6 hours. But the guys that I went with, like, we hunted them. It was fun.
That's what I was going to say. The guys that I was invited to go with, the first thing they do is set up a bar, then they drill a hole.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not a hard water fisherman. Sorry.
I'm not either, but I did it once. You got to do it once, Birdie. You got to at least try it. It's weird. You're sitting there with 2-pound test, and you're like, it's a big one. And they're like, look at that bluegill. It's 9 inches long. And everyone's freaking out.
Yeah. It'd be cool.
Good time.
Yeah.
All right, Bernie, man. Thank you so much. We love having you on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. And again, anybody interested, they can go to my website and or find me on Facebook.
All right, man. Best of luck at Knoxville and the remainder of the season. We will definitely have you on again soon.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
See ya.
See you, Matt.
There you have it. Bernie Schultz. Good dude, man. Been in this game a long, long time and knows his stuff. It's interesting his take on Florida. Doesn't really consider it the HFA, which I find, somewhat interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like I said, it's a weird deal. It's like a reverse deal with him. Like the guys who are up north typically do good in Florida, and he's from Florida who does good up north.
Yeah.
I mean, look.
No, you're right.
The guy's fished like 300 tournaments. He's got one tournament on Okeechobee with the top 10. Now, Seminole, he does. I guess you could consider that a Florida lake, but he really likes Seminole, but it also is in Georgia. So, I mean, if you're just looking for a shock stat, then you can throw Seminole out.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. Have you ever noticed on those old lures, and I kind of wanted to ask him this, there was like a 30 or 40 year period where they were like, the more hooks, the better. Have you ever seen those lures? They've got like hooks on the top, 4 hooks across the bottom. Like you can't hardly see the lure. It just looks like barbed wire.
Yeah. I do remember those. All right, man. What are you going to do the remainder of this frozen day?
I am going to actually pack today because I leave in like 10 days. The 15th, the 25th, leave in 9 days. So I'm actually going to start getting some things packed. So when I get the boat in for the final steps, I think I might have to leave a day early, kind of find some place that's thawed to break the boat in. But I'm going to put some shorts in a box.
Might be a while there. All right, man. Sounds great. Listen, I want to let everybody know this afternoon, I have no idea what time. Okay. But check out basszone.com. I'm going to put a link on there if I do it. And I think because I can't really go anywhere, I've got some work I've got to get lined up here, but I think I'm going to play some music this afternoon, Matthew.
Is Kelly going to join you?
He's going to do that tomorrow night. The plan is Kelly and I are going to do it, but I'd like to do another test this afternoon. Obviously, it's not going to be on YouTube. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to go to the Bass Zone and click on the link there because it will take you to a different site, of which I have the copyright fees paid for.
Okay.
And
can I give one suggestion? Well. Don't mess up the audio. We finally got it dialed back in from the last practice music run that you did.
No, I won't mess it up. I promise.
And then another developing story that we did not mention is obviously Redcrest is coming up down in Texas, and I believe they're going to start practicing in single-digit temperatures on Friday.
Man, and we'll talk to Kelly about that. Obviously, Kelly lives on Lake Palestine, so we will definitely discuss that situation with Kelly tomorrow night. But man, frozen popsicles down there in Texas. First time in history, folks, the entire state of Texas was in a winter storm warning. Every county. Wow. It's never happened before. So even down in Del Rio.
What is it there now, Mark? I'll check the old
-7
right now. Actual temperature.
-7. I just checked it. What is it there?
0. There is no temperature.
There
is no temperature.
I'll tell you, man, it's about 58 degrees in the studio because the heat pump can't take it anymore. It's like tapping out almost. So it's a little chilly in here. We will be back tomorrow, folks, with the Dean, Pete Glusick. Get his take on all kinds of new stuff at the Bash University. And then if you're bored today, check out basszone.com. See if there's a link on there. And listen to a little music for an hour or two this afternoon. So that's it, Matthew, man. Stay warm. And we'll be back tomorrow, same time, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, right here. Anything else?
No, that's all I got. That's all I got.
That's all you got?
Yeah. What, was I supposed to have something else?
No. You just continue to peruse. That's it, folks. Stay
That's a
warm.
good show. It was a good show today.
It was good. Thank you, Bernie.
Yes. Bernie. Plethora of topics.
All good stuff. All right, everybody, stay warm. That's it. We're out of here.